Anyway, tell us about the feeling you're getting at the moment, generally speaking, given that speech by the Chinese president in Boao yesterday.
I think the speech was actually very timely because, as you know, recently we were all anxiously watching this back and forth between China and the United States, this trade tension. You know, a lot of people were not sure what this is about. Is this the end of the globalization, or is this a start of a trade war? Although I'm pretty sure, in my view, I think this is not a trade war. This is, to a certain extent, political posturing and rhetorical escalation. But, you know, we have a reason to be worried. I think yesterday the speech was reassuring and demonstrating that the leaders from both sides actually have the intention to really resort to negotiation as the best way to solve the problem.
Exactly. So what was that, in your view, the central message coming out of the speech? Because if you look at it from Donald Trump's point of view, you could take it as, if you wanted to interpret it, as China blinking first.
Well, I think China is not playing this tit-for-tat game. You know, even though China did respond pretty seriously after the first imposition of the tariff proposal, but China is focusing on, you know, opening up its own market, and also China wants to deliver the message that China supports globalization. I think that was the message Xi Jinping delivered in Davos, and this time he delivered again. A lot of people say, nothing new, but I think it is significant.
There were echoes of that speech he made in Davos a year and a bit ago.
Which is important because against the backdrop of this trade tension, will China still be able to say the same thing? That was a big question, and that question was answered yesterday, which I think is very reassuring.
Wei, I appreciate that, but in another sense, are we any closer to those remarks? Was it also pure rhetoric? We don't have any timelines in place still.
Well, I think as a president of China, I think he's entitled to speak on a more general term. But it was good is that there are actions that's being followed, right? And first of all, you know, specifically that Yi Gang today has come out and then really made an announcement about Stock Connect with London. This is the first time officially they have talked about it, which is fantastic.
By the end of the year, also increasing the Stock Connect with Shenzhen and Shanghai here, the amount you can trade.
Right, by 4 times. So I think this is definitely important for good news for us, good news for our investors and our companies globally.
Absolutely, and Yi Gang also was in Boao talking about how the yuan would not be used as a tool, in effect, by saying they wouldn't devalue the yuan.
Right, because the yuan devaluation, again, is that posturing or is that real? And I think now it's good that that kind of back and forth is stopped, and China is taking the high road and saying, you know, we're going to focus on the big picture, and China is opening up, and that helps this trade dialogue, and which will resolve hopefully in negotiation. But
how is the mood in China evolving in your view? Because is it a situation where the US was the superpower? Does Beijing, do the Chinese now regard themselves on an equal footing with Washington?
I think China, there's no doubt, and is the second largest economy. China is rising in its power. And China is 11 trillion economy and contributing 30% to the global growth. So like it or not, that's the fact. And China has been very domestically focused in terms of addressing all kinds of issues and taking care of the risks and deleveraging and making sure the growth is more balanced and high quality. But meanwhile, in this world, China cannot be just internally focused. So the role that China is going to play, hopefully with a stronger leader, will be a good one, that is to really support globalization. How can globalization take place without the participation of second largest economy? I think that globalization will put positive energy and pressure onto all markets in the sense to start a more positive kind of dialogue.
There's no doubt about it. With the joining of the WTO, of course, China's been a huge winner from globalization. But the argument is, have other countries been the loser because of China being that winner in globalization?
Well, China, I don't think China is growing at the expense of others, because until recently, China has been very much inward focusing in terms of how to really grow its economy. It's focused on export, sure, but China is focusing on its cheap labor and benefit from this population dividends, but that was the early stage. But now China is focusing on the high-end manufacturing, focusing on innovation and all of that. These policies are actually very much focused on the specific domestic situation. And in fact, with China shifting into technology and high-end manufacturing, the neighboring countries in Asia benefit from it, because these kind of old manufacturing capacity will be exported to other countries and help them to grow and create job opportunities.
Or lose them if you have automation. That's the other thing. But there is a demographic issue in China, that is for sure. It's an aging population.
Right.
How much time does China really have to get up to a level where it can be considered a high-income country?
Well, we have a research report on that point, because as you said, you're absolutely right. China has a huge challenge demographically. The population is getting rich, we recognize that, and also older. So hence there was this huge focus on creating healthcare, service, as well as coverage and insurance and all of that. Lot to do. But the important thing is that China has done two things. And 2010, that was the inflection point when the labor force has really started to calm down. China changed the one-child policy. And recently, the hukou reform have unleashed this huge supply of labor from rural area to the city. These are smart moves, but are they going to take effect right away? Have they got everything figured out? I don't necessarily think so, but at least they're moving towards the right direction.
They're moving in the right direction. That's one thing which may be a bit of concern. Then we've got debt issues, huge debt issues that are there at the moment. There's a lot still to be done, structurally speaking. Tell me, why are you still overweight?
We're overweighting because if you look at the debt issue, right, it's a 283% of GDP.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, but China is still behind other countries in Europe. There are a few countries that actually have a higher debt percentage of GDP. That alone, I don't think is necessarily a problem. The problem actually, a few things, is the quality of the debt, right? And China, I think what worries a lot of people is used to produce a lot of low-quality debts. And now the deleveraging effort is to really reduce the percentage of reduction is quite meaningful. That's number one. China's increase of the debt is only 4% last year. And high-quality debt increase. That's
still debt?
Still debt, yes. But as a country, I think holistically speaking, the debt alone is not going to create systemic risks, but this effort that China is doing, and in terms, compound with the cleanup of financial sectors, is going to create a lot more comfort, because that will directly taking care of some of the bad NPLs that people are talking about.
I've got time for one more question.
Sure.
When you have prospective investors talking to you about China, tell me, what is the number one concern that they have before they put their money, give their money to you?
I think it's geopolitical tension. That is the number one concern, because people don't know how China is going to react towards the United States if this kind of tariff proposal is made. Is China going to be tit-for-tat? Is China going to retaliate? That's the number one concern. The number two concern is what I'm talking about. You just asked it, and you got it, and that is the debt issue and the well-being of the financial institutions. Why we are bullish on China? We have a research report, and it's solely based on wealth creation. China as it's going to change and transform itself from middle-income country to high-income country. And that give us the comfort,
Yep.
because that's how explains why China is growing at 6.5%.